5-axis. And other companies don't necessarily need simultaneous 5-axis. So the CMX50U is a lower cost option, which is very, very easy to use. And it has, the master spindle range is now attached to it, so you've got 12 and 15,000 RPM spindles, 2 sizes of tables, 630, 800.
We've seen a demo on the screen here. Actually, it's a very well sold machine here, isn't it?
It is, yes, definitely. And as I said, it's those smaller subcontractors, it's a great option for them, because when you start, like as Kevin's gone through that range, it's really scary stepping up to those big machines or 5-axis. So it really does bridge a gap, and that's where we see a lot of the inquiries coming through.
Do you sell these to a lot of new users as well? I mean, Steve mentioned yesterday about the sort of 40+% of new customers. This would be a good way to get a foot in the door, wouldn't it? Because I can understand, I can fully see how stepping up to a more expensive, more elaborate piece of technology is quite a scary prospect, but this might just fit in perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point where we support new startups, they have no machines at all, and they're starting, and they'll even just jump the whole step of 3-axis verticals straight to a 3+2, and whether it's a 70 or the 50, and just the learning curve is very quick to get up.
You mentioned about, I mean, I don't want to use the word entry level because it really isn't an entry level machine either, is it? Looking at some of the technology on this.
I don't think DMGMORI have a entry level
machine. Mineral composite bed.
Yeah.
You've got 30 or 60 tool options, 19-inch screen on the Heidenhain or Siemens control, and that 36-month warranty on the spindle. Quite reassuring. And the 2 models, you say, the CMX50 and the 70.
Yeah.
Let's move on to then the DMU range. Sticking with yourself, Robbie. This is a machine I'm very familiar with actually. It's been a popular seller for years, hasn't it? What's some of the differences with this model then?
So it's still the same principle as, say, the CMX50 and the 70U, whereby it's got a knuckle. The table size is 630, and the options of coolant pressures, sort of up to 70 bar. Tooling, you can stretch up from the 60 tools then to additional 120 as well, so 30 is a standard. But it really is that step into simultaneous 5-axis, so the controls are more powerful. The Heidenhain Siemens controls step up, so 640 on the Heidenhain and 840D.
And when you look at the size machine, it's very, very small footprint, isn't it?
They are, yes, and very, very rigid bases, so it's a single piece casting there as well. So everything that generates heat is liquid cooled, including the spindle, and again, master spindles, 20,000, 15,000 as standard, or a 15,000 high torque spindle.
Is this one of your most popular 5-axis
Yeah, as we spoke about yesterday, this is the most popular 5-axis machine that DMGMORI supply, and as I said yesterday, because it's, in my opinion, it's a great general subcontractor's machine. So you're doing titanium, you're doing aluminium, steels, you can chop and change day in, day out.
What about the DMU 60 Evo Linear? That's some machine as well, isn't it, when it comes to the speed?
Yeah.
That's another league when it comes to performance, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, the Evo range is certainly one of the most dynamic machines that you can get your hands on. And it's for 2 reasons really. The design of the table is one of the reasons the machine's fast. It's like a knuckle design, so the center point of rotation is very high on the table, and that's extremely important for 5-axis machining, because it means that when you rotate that axis, as you do to get at different faces and what have you, your linear axis don't have to move very far to keep in position with the rotary table. And what we also do on that machine, we offer a package, a dynamic package that allows you to get the linear motors on 2 of the axes of the machines that give you that faster acceleration, that faster rapid rates.
So is that for more harder materials, let's say, and you're trying to removal rate, basically?
For us, the Evo will do harder materials. Really, the Evo is a machine when you have a lot of simultaneous 5-axis work to do, and you want to do it quickly. A lot of the F1 paternity would use that style of machine. They like to get some speed on the part.
Coming on to the monoblock now, myself and Paul have been to Fronton a couple of times. I mean, I understand there's over 5,000 monoblocks in operation around the world. I think they can build up to 1,000 monoblocks in the Fronton factory now. We got a little bit of a piece of video about the monoblock. Could you just talk over us a little bit about this?
Yeah, this is the monoblock, meaning a one-piece casting. You just can see it there in the on the video. And one of the best things I think about the monoblock is that it's one of the best utilizations of floor space for the size of your working environment. And the other thing I really like about the monoblock, and customers like, is the access to the work area is superb. Your control is to your right if you're operating the machine. Your tool changer to your left. There's everything there in front of you instantly. Various table configurations from a torque table. We can even offer FD technology on this machine. Fräsen to mill, drehen to turn mill.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a point I've got written down about the access. It's one of the things that stands out straight away. Everybody likes to hear how fast and how powerful machines are, but sometimes they overlook what it's like for the operator. But accessing this machine with everything, you know, to hand is perfect, isn't it?
What's so important for an operator, some operators may be nervous because it's quite an expensive machine, but with that front guard on the monoblock, you can see everything in the working area. You can see if there's any possibility of any sort of areas of the machine that, or around the spindle that could come into contact with any of the fixturing. That clearly should have been probably evaluated through probably VeriCut or something like that, but some people just go straight on with machining.
And we talk about applications, so what would be a really good application or applications for this, for the monoblock series?
Monoblock series, really any part within the envelope, because on a monoblock we can have different spindles. So we can have a spindle for aluminium, you can have a spindle for very tough materials, so we can configure the machine to more or less any application.
Or even a spindle that's a bit more generic. So I've got some contractors in the southwest that have these machines that, again, titanium, aluminium, and different days, and they have more standardized, so it's like a higher output, higher torque spindle, so they get their speed, they get their torque, and so it doesn't matter what comes in the door, they can still manufacture it.
And that's quite interesting, because you've taken me to a couple of your customers, and when it's their first take into 5-axis machining effectively, but also they rave about the CLOS control, for instance, how easy it is to use, the backup you've given them, and how easy it is to actually get the machine running in a very short space of time with your service team.
Yeah.
What about the adoption of turning on these? You talk about integrating turning into them. Is that something that people go, well, actually, I'd rather do the two different operations on different machines, or I'd rather do them all on one? Because it is a, you know...
Yeah, it depends. I mean, for me, it depends on the amount of turning that a company's got. I mean, if a company's got a high volume of turning in the facility, then maybe you wouldn't go for a turn mill machine. But a lot of companies have parts that have to be turned, and rather than spend another amount of money on a, you know, just purely a turning machine, turn mill's a good option. You can then do your milling, your turning in the one operation. You're getting the component done quicker.
Generally with that what you're talking about there, the numbers always drive it. So we looked at, say, the CLX 750 yesterday, and when you break the numbers down, and the quantities of parts coming through, it might be that they go for, say, a 65 monoblock, and then they have a CLX with big turning capacity next to it. It might be that if it's sort of simple turn work, big work, and they're limited on shop floor space, then it might be they just go for the single solution. So we can offer different solutions within the range, and we really do go into all the details, DMGMORI UK.
I find it fascinating, the mentality of engineers, and would be interested in your comments as well, because so often some say, why would I turn up, use a use a 5-axis machine, or not use the 5-axis machine and use a turning machine, you know, tie it up with turning, when actually it's there for 5-axis machining.
The other thing on a turn mill is that you can either use it as a vertical turning machine, or you can use it as a horizontal turning machine.
I think it's education, isn't it, Paul?
Yes.
How many times have we been to engineers, and you know, we even see things, especially from your background, you think, well, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you talk to these guys?
I still go to companies now, one VMC with one vice, one part on the table, and you look at it and you go, you know, sometimes it beggars belief, really. But yeah, we'd be interested to know what your opinions are on those aspects and anything that we're talking about now. What about this NMV? Robbie, we spoke to you about it yesterday.
We
can't wait to get back on
the
this.
smile now.
Yeah, just gone.
Been waiting for this bit.
Yeah, tell us why the NMV, in your opinion, is one of the best machines in your portfolio.
Okay, so manufacturing metal cutting manufacturing companies in the UK are very, very au fait with C-frame constructions, whether it's a vertical, whether it's a 5-axis machine. It might even be with a gantry, but again, there's always an overhang of the spindle. So the NMV brings something completely different to the market. And in a nutshell, if you were looking plan view to the top of the machine, you've got your spindle, cartridge spindle, liquid cooled. Outside that, we spoke yesterday, octagonal ram, big sort of box guideway, very, very rigid. From there, you have your X-axis frame, which that's housed inside the centre of. You've got your Y-axis frame on a gantry, so your spindle is in the middle, there's no overhang. So that's all supported by a sort of U-frame gantry, and that moves up and down with your direct drive rotary table, everything that generates heat, liquid cooled. So it's not only very, very stable, very accurate, it's very, very reliable. I said that numerous times yesterday. We don't generally get any problems with these machines. So if customers out there are looking for multi-pallet sort of solutions, get in touch with us and let's have a look and see what we can do.
Well, that's interesting. Actually, I've been talking to Robbie yesterday when he told me, the love affair of the NMV. we're going to actually go to a customer and actually see it in full operation and why they're so happy for it. I know you've got a question.
Yeah. We talk about footprint a lot on this machine, and I did notice as well that the AWC aspect to this is just 1.5 meters by 2 meters as well. So a lot of small. The sort of space is going up as opposed to out and back, isn't it?
And it doesn't matter, as I said yesterday, whether it's the 34 pallets, the 114 or 120 pallets, it basically all is housed and it doesn't go any higher, it's all inside that same
This is interesting, and I'd encourage you to listen to this, because maybe you could just elaborate on that, Robbie, for a bit, because sometimes we look at pallet systems and they're fixed. You know, you've got 10 pallets, you've got 18 pallets, you've got 21 pallets. Just explain how the AWC works on this NMV.
So customers, we will train customers to basically move the shelves inside the pallet system up and down. And what that allows them to do is they'll have 114 pallets sat on the bench. They can bring in 34 of those pallets and be able to machine 350 mil by 300 mil work size. It could be that they want the first 2 levels with the bigger parts, and then they bring the rest of them in for 150 mil high by 230 mil diameter, and then all the rest of them like that. And then the next month, they decide they want to reconfigure and have 34 all the way up, or 114. So they have complete flexibility and security moving forward for whatever work comes in the door.
So do you have to change your work holding? Like,
no,
0
so
point,
it's exactly the same pallet configuration, same pallets. It's just the spacing on the shelves and the shelf positions change.
Flexible palletization, that's the word, isn't it? Yeah. I can see a real advantage to that, so I'd encourage you to look in more detail at the MMV. And then it's not just for batch runs. Again, we talk about this all the time. It's about keeping that spindle going for 98, 99% of the time.
And I think that's the point, Paul, is that we spoke about automation. Obviously, it's with us. We're trying to catch up with Europe, if I'm honest. But at the end of the day, automation is with us. It's going to make you a lot more money, and these are the guys to actually embrace and help you with that. So I encourage you to keep sending your questions and answers in, because these guys are going to be on the hot sofa after the finance from Lindsay. She's going to be talking to James Clist how you can actually buy any machine from DMGMORI Finance and not pay a penny for up to 6 months.
James, thank you for joining us today on the live show.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, right, okay, so DMGMORI Finance, can you tell everybody what it's all about?
Yeah, of course. DMGMORI Finance is the group's own leasing company. The idea is behind this is that DMGMORI, being a total solutions provider, doesn't need to rely upon third-party banks or finance companies to support customers' investment.
So James, how are you seeing a deal differently then to those third-party banks?
Well, clearly we are experts in the financing of DMGMORI machines. We understand inherently the impact that machine tool investment happens on a company, how it affects them in terms of planning, actually putting finance together, but also how much money a machine can generate.
Right, okay, so who's going to DMGMORI Finance? Is it the one-man band, or is it the big, multi-million-pound company?
Well, contrary to popular belief, DMGMORI in the UK has a 50-50 split between OEM and subcontractor, And in the UK, we finance 48% of all DMGMORI machines sold.
Okay, so very popular. How do you see a machine tool differently? I guess you're so close to the industry that you understand it and see it in a different way.
I think what's really important is that customers want to maximise the return on the payments that they make. We have a policy of really taking hold of a machine, understanding its residual value, so we can put that to the back end of the agreement, which means that the customer benefits from a technologically advanced machine with a lower monthly payment.
Right, okay, so I get the fact that, you know, maybe if someone thought, I can't quite afford that, but now you're basically saying, no, you can, and you might be able to get it for a better deal by coming to yourself.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, we've heard about the 5-axis range. It's a phenomenal range of machines, and it's very aspirational. And the CMX50U being one that's very, very popular with the subcontract sector.
Yeah.
You know, what we're able to do through the financing, we can give customers up to 6 months with no payments, so they can generate income whilst they're learning new technology.
Yeah.
But also with the residual value, we're able to give a monthly payment that gives them a proper return on their investment.
Because somebody might not think that they can afford a 5-axis machine.
They may think that.
And they might go for a 3-axis instead.
Well, I think this is the key. The importance moving forward is that customers are as competitive as they can be, and small companies, given the opportunity to invest at the right level, can take their businesses forward and generate more profit.
Yeah, because they're opening up their world to capacity, really. They're saying, I've got a 5-axis machine, that's going to win you more work, you can do more work, and in turn, you're making more money, that means you can grow the business.
Well, Lindsay, every machine tool investment, behind that sits a financial decision.
Yeah.
So we can work with customers right at the start of their process and help them, along with the DMGMORI expertise, to understand how much profit they can make.
Okay, and my final question, the current climate, it's not a nice time at the moment, so what is it that you can do for your customers?
Well, it's not what we can do, it's what we've done. So first of all, we have supported customers with payment holidays through this horrible COVID period, but more importantly, we want to make sure that they're there to profit moving forwards. So we will look forward to support their investment as they come out.
The way I get what you're saying is you're giving somebody confidence in that purchase.
There has to be confidence to invest, otherwise it's a barrier to investment.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, James. Now over to the questions and answer session on the main stage.
Well, I think James has simplified the finance that DMGMORI can offer. Why would you not buy a DMGMORI with that finance package? Now, you've got a question on the DuoBLiQ, haven't you?
Well, yeah, we didn't touch on the DuoBLiQ. We kind of ran out of time, but maybe you could just give us a quick insight into the DuoBLiQ and the differences between that and the mono.
Okay, one thing I'd say is that when you start on parts from 550mm diameter cylinder, let's say, up to 1,250, then for that range we tend to tilt the part. Yeah. When we moved on to the DuoBLiQ range, they're far bigger machines, the parts are far bigger, and what we tend to do here, we then start to tilt the tool as opposed to the component, for obvious reasons, because the component weight, the dynamics on the machine. But DuoBLiQ, such a rigid machine tool, starts at a 60mm size and grows right the way up to 160, which is a 1.6 metre table.
Is this why you claim on the website that it's optimal machining conditions, just because of you can almost manoeuvre the machine to accommodate the component in some way?
Yes, yeah, you can do that. But it's just such a powerful machine tool in its layout. We haven't really got time today to look at the construction of that machine, but hopefully we'll get an opportunity at some time to maybe go through that.
That's a good point, actually, because the DMGMORI sales team, you know, really want you guys to be educated in reference to 5-axis machining, or you know, how you get your first step into it. These guys are available all the time to look at all your aspects and produce the best solution from DMGMORI UK.
Okay, we've got a couple of comments coming in. We want to say a big shout out to Lee Howarth. I know
one of your customers, very good customers, I should say.
It's best not be tricky.
Also, Connor Atkinson on LinkedIn, he wants to know what machine the wheel was run on. Is it CTX Gamma?
Gamma.
CTX Gamma machine. So yeah, and we want to keep those questions and comments coming through for those shout outs. We do have a question. What's the best solution for 5-axis, horizontal or vertical spindle? Well, I suppose that comes on to what we just...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, it depends on part size, but I would say a really good option at the moment is the new monoblock H, where you can actually machine with a part inverted to help swarf drop away from the...
Great for swarf fall away.
Exactly, Paul, yeah.
Okay. Another question here.
Yep.
In your opinion, what's the best control for 5-axis? Go on, Robbie.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll give you the tough question then.
We supply machines with Siemens, Heidenhain, and Fanuc, and Mitsubishi. Not Mitsubishi for 5-axis. I don't think I could go. Yeah, the strengths and weaknesses, and I don't think I could say specifically. Yeah, Heidenhain, because you'll go from one company to the next, and they're both doing fantastically complex parts, and completely different controls.
Do you find sometimes that some customers potentially go for a different machine because they can't get the control? And they have to re-educate themselves.
Yes, sometimes. Yeah.
The beauty is with DMGMORI, you can come to us, we can offer you the control that fits in with your current working environment. If your guys are trained on Heidenhain, we'll offer you Heidenhain. If your guys are familiar and fluent on Siemens, let's go the Siemens route.
Does it matter that much these days when you think about CAD-CAM?
Exactly that, Paul.
You know,
really,
a lot of the work's done. You want to be doing that work off the machine. Really,
yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Another question: can you do grinding on these machines?
There's certain machines in the range again that we have grinding options on. Certainly the duo block range is configured massively for grinding.
And the monoblocks?
The monoblocks we can do grinding on as well, Robbie, you're absolutely right. Various coolant systems again are enhanced for that. And also on the duo block, there's a coolant nozzle that is particularly, we're able to position that to the critical position for the interface of the wheel and the component, which is, as you know, in grinding is pretty important.
What's the advantage to doing grinding on the machine as well? Is it just because it all becomes in one process?
It's one process. You don't have to have the machine queuing. A lot of grinding machines are expensive and fairly underutilised because with today's capabilities of machine tools, most machine tools can produce a really nice surface that probably had to be ground 20 years ago, where today you'll be able to get that RA surface finish straight off the tool. So probably some of the grinding machines are less utilised. So if you've got grinding on your machine, it just...
So an important point just to add as well, DMGMORI offer a range of cylindrical grinders as well within our Tire Koki range. And those machines are master spindles, are ball screws. So there's an array of different grinding machines. In addition to the ultrasonic grinding of ceramics, glass, quartz, zirconia, those sorts of materials as well. So we really are, we do a lot of grinding within the range.
But when you talk about grinding and the other machining, is it just a case of you go from one operation to the other, or the hardware must be in place to accommodate both aspects, but you can't just turn and then grind, can you? Or is that how it works?
We can, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have the hardware on the machine, so you've got an acoustic sensor again on the spindle, you've got to have a dresser somewhere on the machine which we accommodate as well. But yeah, you can have all those technologies on the one machine.
Well, there you go, sort of grinding.
We also had another question about the cost of the NMV. Is it expensive, Robbie? This is going to be one. I know we've had 2 or 3 people actually say this.
Yeah. So when you compare it to other machines on the market in comparison from like spec to spec, it's actually cheaper. It's not what you think it will be. You think this cell with 114 pallets and all these fantastic features and benefits is going to be £500,000, but it's not. So what I'd say is, if someone's looking for a pallet loader, just let us have a look. Let's quote you the solution, and the CMX as well, the DME50. All these machines are very, very well priced.
And I think that's a good point. I don't know about you, Paul, but I have been in some companies want to get into 5-axis machining. As soon as the DMGMORI name is actually mentioned, I can't afford one.
I've heard that many times, Mark, many times. And then, do you know the price of our machine? No. Please let us quote you, and then at least you can compare our price against competitors.
Do you know, I also think though, I mean, it is more expensive to buy a pallet machine than a single table machine, of course, but when you look at how much it is compared to what you're going to get out of it when you turn a machine from a 40-50% efficiency up to you're doubling your output, so your return on investment.
Sorry guys, we're
out of time.
Sorry to be rude, we're out of time. Hopefully you've got a great insight from these guys in reference to 5-axis milling from DMGMORI. We've spoken about the fantastic options, but we've also spoken about the finance. But to end this session, hand over to Lindsay.
Thank you so much for all of your questions, and unfortunately we can't get through every single one of them, but if you still write them in the comments box below, we'll be answering those in due course. Now, if you've missed any of this session or any of yesterday's, they're all available on YouTube and on the MTD CNC website on demand. Now, the next session is going to be at 11:15, and that's on additive manufacturing, but at 12 o'clock, very exciting, is the UK launch of the M1 machine, where the topic is 3 and 4 axis. So we'll see you next at 11:15. welcome to the DMGMORI UK Dynamic Excellence Live event. You're joining us in the additive manufacturing session, which is fast becoming a major area of growth in the UK and worldwide. Now, this is a little bit different to the other sessions, as Mark visited JR Motorsport, which have invested in the first ever LASERTEC additive machine in the UK. So let's take a look.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, it's a shame we can't be in the Coventry showroom at DMGMORI, but the LASERTEC 30 machine has just been sold and installed here at JRM Motorsport in Coventry. Now, Steve, this is a fantastic case study. I know we're going to be speaking to Chris from JRM Motorsport and also your Terry, who looks after additive manufacturing. Tell us why this machine's here rather than the Coventry showroom.
Well, the customer purchased it, obviously, but the nice thing here is what we see is the really good fit. The customer was already using our 5-axis machining centres, and this is like a natural progression into giving them the support to their customer.
And when you look at the type of components that these guys are manufacturing, is it that the LASERTEC system can actually offer a better end product, because sometimes the motorsport and other sectors are looking at very, very sort of thin walls, let's say?
That is true, Mark, that is very, very true, but what it also can offer in equipment that's been manufactured in the past on vintage cars and heritage cars, so making ones off and making them very efficiently from a very simple model that you can scan.
Well, JRM Advanced Engineering and Manufacturing like to be at the forefront of everything, and that's why we bought the first one in the UK. So we work on internal projects and for external customers as well. So the reasoning really for this was to be able to offer our customers a better service, faster turnaround, and more advanced components, basically. What this will allow us to do, it'll allow us to work right from the design stage and think differently the way that we're designing products and components, whether they're for suspension or for whatever. You know, we can keep the integrity of the parts, but by using clever software, we can probably get some weight reduction. We can experiment more, so our prototypes can come off quicker, and we can experiment in different materials.
And when you're looking at different materials, does that allow you to actually maybe use that technology transfer to go after other markets, like medical, for instance, aerospace? One
of the biggest reasons was so that we could branch into other markets. We wanted this machine because it complements the rest of our manufacturing facility. We're already running 5-axis machines, and this is a natural progression on from there. And the thought of us being able to work very much at the base level with design engineers on new products, we can rush their prototypes through a lot quicker with this machine rather than conventional machining. We can make changes quicker. So yes, new marketplaces are where we want to be heading.
We do a smaller one, which is particularly adaptable to medical parts, small medical parts, and we do a dual laser as well, so a twin laser system.
So looking a bit further into maybe 2021, do you see more additive being sold from DMGMORI in the UK and Ireland? Yes,
there is predictions that manufacturing will consist of around 10% of additive, which is huge in respects of when you think how many machine tools are being sold around the world. That's a lot of additive machines being sold.
And I suppose the benefit from DMGMORI is that not only have you got the vast expansion of your manufacturing plants around the world, but also from the point of view that if you've got let's say a smaller machining centre or a turning machine from you guys, this fits a whole very well in the market, doesn't it?
It really complements those machines as well. And what you'll find, like you've got here at JRM Motorsport, is that you've got 5-axis subtractive machining, you've now got additive, and the two can work hand in hand. There may be finishing touches that need to be done after it's come off the additive. So I believe that we're really the only company in the world that supplies both products from the same stable.
DMGMORI are very well known for many machine tools, but maybe not so much for additive manufacturing. And we had the privilege to actually go to JRM Motorsport, or the group, to look at the first machine in the UK and Ireland. Terry, now you head up the additive manufacturing solutions here at DMGMORI UK. Could you tell us a little bit about why they bought that machine, and then go on to the range of machines that you actually offer at DMGMORI?
Yeah, so firstly, we're delighted to be working with JRM on their entry into additive manufacturing. They're clearly the right type of company to be adopting the technology. They have their own applications for it, and they'll also be branching out into doing work for their customers. So they've taken the LASERTEC 30 SLM system. They'll be working with 3 different materials: aluminium, titanium Ti64, and stainless steel 316.
And just coming on to my second question there, what are the range of machines available from DMGMORI on additive?
Okay, so we're working across 2 technology types. So both metal additive manufacturing systems, both using metal powder, both using lasers to fuse metal together, but very different to each other in terms of how they work, what they do, and what the application space for the 2 is. So firstly, we have selective laser melting, also known as powder bed fusion.
Actually, we've got a video on this. Maybe you wanted to talk us through this actually on the SLM.
Yeah. Yeah, so here these are the 2 machines. So we have the small build volume machine, the LaserTec 12, and then this is the LaserTec 30. As you see, we have a cubic build volume in there. In the case of the larger one, this is 300 millimeters cubed. We have a recoating module which moves left to right, spreading powder each layer, and then we have the laser scanner which melts everything that needs to be melted each layer until we have finished parts.
So where's the application for this? I mean, we've got obviously a few examples of different additive parts on the table, but where do you see the fit in industry?
The fit really is that we get the best out of the technology, and the business case for it emerges when we're really innovating at that end product or component level. So that can be, can we make parts lighter? Can we take a 20-part assembly and make it 1 part? Can we look at heat performance and how we can optimize that, and where we're really taking advantage of that totally new geometrical complexity that we can now build into parts that we couldn't before.
It's a design engineering.
Exactly,
you know, it isn't just about educating the owner of the company, it's educating the engineers that create parts, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So we talk about design for manufacture, but now we're talking about design for additive manufacture.
And I think the other key here with JRM Group is that they're really big into motorsports, and really good key cars they've been involved in from the racing point of view, but they've bought that machine to effectively use the technology transfer to get into other markets, bringing in aerospace, the likes of medical, and I think that's quite key, isn't it, for a lot of customers that are looking at additive?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a vision, isn't it? He's got a vision, you know, okay, he's got a need for the machine at the moment, albeit maybe not to its maximum capacity, but it's his vision of where the future is. And we talk about these applications, Terry. I'd be really interested if maybe you could give us an example of this was a part that was made previously like this, not maybe to show us, but give us an example of something that has been maybe re-engineered or now printed as opposed to a different method.
Well, if you look at the part that's on the rear of the table here, this is a topology optimized wheel carrier in aluminium. So this is now 40% lighter than it would be manufactured conventionally. It's got internal channels that you just wouldn't produce any other way, and then you also have the process benefits element of it, in that if we have 10 different designs of that, we can print them all out without having to think about castings and machining efforts, etc.
And coming on to WERKBLiQ, we've got a short video if you could look at, but I remember this being launched at Fronton this year. You took us over, and obviously a bit of a game changer. What is WERKBLiQ?
So the WERKBLiQ is the powder handling system of the machine. So the powder circulation is really quite complex, in that we have to sieve powder, we have to carry it in an argon environment between the powder handling system and the machine. And what this system does is it keeps all of that integrated, so the operator contact with powder is kept to an absolute minimum.
So hold on. A lot of companies that I've seen have got additive machines. They're in their own environment. In other words, they can't be exposed to the normal shop floor.
Yeah.
So that's where the game changer is.
That's where the game changer is. Yeah, it keeps everything completely closed. There's very little operator connection with powder. And what's really unique about this is that we can provide a machine with multiple replug modules, allowing the customer to work with more than one material.
How many materials are there, for instance, that you can actually build?
So for SLM, we're talking aluminiums, we're talking titanium, we're talking tool steel. Tool steel is a really big one where we can print injection mold tools with complex cooling channels. We're talking nickel alloys, Inconel, we're talking stainless steel.
And when you're printing the different material, what's involved in the setup in order to do that print? What do you have to learn? What do you have to reprogram? What do you have to change on the machine to go from, example, a tool steel to an aluminium?
We're looking at a 2-hour changeover. So you would have a machine with, if you had a 2 material setup, you would have 2 replug units, one for say Inconel 718 and one for titanium. When you do a changeover, it's a case of unloading one replug, a little bit of cleaning inside the build chamber, and then load the second replug.
But from a control element, from an operator's perspective, to actually start the printing process, what do they need to know? Does the control, I suppose what I'm saying, work out, okay, well this is an Inconel we're printing, therefore we do so many layers at so many depths and so forth?
Yeah, so we're working with what we would call process parameters for different materials. So all of the materials that I've mentioned have certified process parameters for different layer thicknesses, whereby we know what we're going to get. We know what mechanical properties, surface finish we're going to get. The customer generally uses those. He can also adapt his own if he wants.
There's one part that I'm quite interested in, actually, you got there. I mean, just explain, this is on the SLM, isn't it? Just explain what that is and why it's so unique.
Really, this is an example of what can be achieved from a geometrical aspect on the machine, whereby if it's quite a high fidelity example, but moving parts. So, we can build multiple parts together, and then once we release them from the build plate, they become free like this.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Now, we've spoken about SLM, but the other model that you have is the LT125. We've got a video on this. Could you just talk us through the difference between the two machines, or certainly the LT?
Yeah, so this is the other side, if you like. So this is directed energy deposition. This is 5-axis milling machine, monoblock type milling machine. Nothing is compromised in that sense. It's either a 65 monoblock or a 125 monoblock with an integrated building head, as you see there. So we're adding material to parts, we're taking material away, we're adding again. So it's very different to SLM, but it has its own application space.
And the part at the front of this table here, with the, well, as I say, you explain what that part is, because I think that's amazing how you've built that.
Yeah, so this is an example of how we can really be more economical with material, with cutting tools and with the process. So you look at a bladed part like that, and maybe conventionally you would be having to mill between the blades from solid. In this example, we can start with something that's quite simple, a cylinder. We could build that cylinder, or we could just start with a cylinder, do some machining there, maybe turning of the cylindrical features. Then we can add the blades, because we're in a hybrid additive subtractive environment. And then we can finish machining the blades there as well, in one setup.
I know a question that people will be thinking, and again, this is an opportunity for you to ask Terry your questions on additive manufacturing and what DMGMORI can achieve. Is the integrity of that printing on a part there, as opposed to it being machined out of a solid? Now, some may question that, but I've heard others saying that it's actually potentially stronger.
We'll find that it's comparable to raw material, for definite. And one thing that I would say is we generally know more about the part than we would do otherwise, because we can monitor the melt pool, we can monitor what's happening each layer. We can really control what we're building with process parameters, with laser power and powder feed rates and things like that. So we have the opportunity to really optimize the material as well as the geometry.
Do you know where I see big advantages to this is when you, and been on the shop floor, machine parts, you might make mistakes.
What would you say,
might make mistakes. I speak for others, but yeah, it does happen. This can be used to repair, can't it? You can add materials where something may have happened, then remachine again. Yeah. And I see that as you know, an opportunity.
Repair is certainly a very clear application of the DED hybrid range. We have a number of customers doing exactly that. In injection moulding or in die casting, whereby rather than manually welding tools back up onto a machining centre to machine back, perhaps find out that the manual welding didn't go so well and then back again, we're in one setup, full repair.
I can see this sort of fitting in as well. I mean, there's a massive skills shortage for tool and mould makers, isn't there, to a certain extent? And
absolutely,
you can de-skill that, can't you?
You can de-skill that, yeah. You can with the CAM environment that we have and the one-hit solution, certainly.
I noticed with the machine we just seen there, you had two materials. You had a twin material. Is that? Yeah. So where we talk about the plug system, the replug system, this is kind of that version of.
It's kind of that version of that. So for the DED hybrid machines, changing over from material is a lot simpler. We have powder hoppers at the side of the machine that we can easily clean out and fill with something else. The reason that we have two is so that we can build a part or do a repair application with two materials in one setup.
Where is the printing head on that? Where do you keep it if you're going to be machining?
It's a secret.
It's almost like an automation system whereby we have a unit to the right hand side of the machine, and it shuttles into the spindle, basically.
Now we're getting a bit thin on time here. It's a big subject. I think additive manufacturing has brought a whole new world of how we can actually manufacture a product or help manufacture a product. But a bit of a leading question. What's next from DMGMORI?
Well, I think certainly it's been a dramatic year for us. So this year saw the release of the new dual laser system in SLM. So that's the LASERTEC 30 dual. So here it's the same as the 30 machine, but we have two lasers working at once for up to 80% better productivity. Around about this time last year was when we released the 125 3D hybrid. Watch this space on a turning centre version of the DED hybrid range, and who knows what we'll do with SLM.
Well, interesting subject, a bit of a learning curve, isn't it, for us?
For you.
Always. We got plenty of questions coming in. It's not too late. Put your questions to Terry. I'm sure he'll be able to answer them. He's very technical, and obviously, you know, looking at the case study, it just shows you where LASERTEC can actually fit in for your company. But talking about how to afford these type of machines, Lindsay is with James Cliss to actually look at some options from DMGMORI Finance.
Thanks, James, again for joining us as part of the live show. Now, for anybody who has missed any of the sessions earlier, DMGMORI Finance, what is it that you do and what is it that you do differently?
Well, DMGMORI Finance is a leasing company owned by the group. It allows customers to have the absolute expertise applied when they're investing with DMGMORI.
Right, and who is using you?
Well, in the UK, there's a 50-50 split between subcontract and OEM. And of all of the machines sold in the UK marketplace, DMGMORI finances 48% of those machines.
Okay, that's really good figures. You know, it shows what you're doing is working. So, in terms of additive manufacturing,
yes.
What is it that you do differently?
Well, additive manufacturing, obviously, it's a very new technology in some regard. And it's a technology which is evolving constantly. We know that behind every machine tool purchase, additive or subtractive, there's a financial decision.
Yeah.
And what we really want to make sure is that customers don't necessarily get stuck with technology which has moved forward.
Okay.
So we have the ability to write a lease, maybe over 2 or 3 years, and allow customers to invest with total confidence, knowing that they've got the latest technology today, but they have the flexibility to upgrade and move with the times in maybe 2 or 3 years' time.
So it's not just leasing. I mean, so it's not just the finance, but you're also leasing as well, so people don't have that ownership.
Well, absolutely, because DMGMORI Finance understands the assets so well. We're prepared to take a residual value stance on the equipment, which gives customers this flexibility and this confidence to invest.
Okay, explain about the residual value. Why are you seeing it differently, and how does that benefit the customer?
Well, DMGMORI Finance is financing direct from the manufacturer. It's not via a third-party bank or leasing company, and we work with DMGMORI used machines to gain a total understanding of what assets are worth, and that gives us the flexibility.
So that in turn will allow someone to get a higher technology machine for actually lower payment.
Yes, and in terms of additive, stay constant with the technology.
Right, okay, and when we were talking about leasing, so going back a bit, is that just additive? Because we haven't really discussed this on any of the other sessions.
Absolutely not, Lindsay. The idea or the concept of being able to finance a machine linked with the contract from a customer applies to the entire range of machines. So the full range of 5-axis, milling, turning, everything.
So everything. Okay, and you said about who uses you. One-man bands or, you know, big multi-million-pound company?
We go the full spectrum from small companies right up to some of the OEMs. I mean, we recently wrote a 2-year operating lease, a rental, for a £1 million machine, because all the customer could see was a 2-year contract. So we give them that option. It services the contract.
Yeah.
It could be returned after that. But should they wish to keep it, then we can extend it and they can buy it in the normal way.
It's really flexible.
Absolutely.
Okay, current climate, not a nice time at the moment. What have you done to help your customers out so it gives people the confidence when going to DMGMORI Finance?
Well, first of all, we obviously supported our customers through the COVID outbreak back in March. And in some cases, depending on the industry, that continues today. But I think moving forward, we give customers the ability to invest with confidence so that if there is a contract, we can provide a machine for that period of time and de-risk the whole process for our customers.
It's so interesting, James. Thank you so much. Anything else to say on DMGMORI Finance? How do they get in touch?
Well, you can get us here at DMGMORI or via your local area sales manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, over to the gents on the very popular questions and answers session.
DMGMORI Finance, even for their additive, it just shows you the diversity that they can actually offer in solutions. Now we've got a very busy schedule of questions coming up. Are you ready, Terry?
I'm ready.
Is it possible to change the machine over to a new material? If so, how quickly can you change the material?
Yep, entirely feasible. You have as many replug units as materials that you're going to work with, and 2 hours.
Yeah.
From one to working with another in 2 hours.
I mean, obviously then you have to buy another replug, don't you? So then
Absolutely, yeah.
So there is a cost to the additional unit.
There is a cost to that, yeah. So we would have customers that work with one replug on one material, and then 6 months, 12 months down the line, they could say, well, we want to work in a new material.
Yeah.
But they then only need to purchase a replug, not a new machine.
Okay, yeah, good point, good point. Okay, how do you decide what to manufacture, additive versus subtractive? I suppose that comes down to the fact you can redesign again now, doesn't it? How parts are made, additive versus subtractive.
Yeah, I think that question goes back to this idea of that we have to think carefully about the business case for additive manufacturing. One thing that we say is that if we can machine it, then you probably should machine it, you know. So additive comes in when you either have this product innovation whereby you're adding value to products because you can't make it any other way, and then the business case emerges there, or when we're really low volume, or when we're talking mass customization.
But I always think as well, when you look at printing a part, how much is the cost of the material for printing that part as opposed to buying a huge billet maybe and then machining and having a lot of waste material when it comes off it? Those are factors you have to factor in as well, aren't they?
Those are factors you have to factor in, yeah. So, you know, for expensive materials, you can find that the material would cost less for additive because we're only using what we need rather than having a huge block.
So it's not like having, obviously not like having swath wastage. Is that what you're saying? You're only using what you need?
You're only using, we're very lean on material, yeah, absolutely.
And what's really interesting about this technology, I find, is that if the certain area of a component is the only area that really needs the strength, you can make that particular area out of the strong, durable material, and then you can print, a cheaper material around the other areas, can't you? So
exactly, yeah. So this is where we go back to the double hopper system on the hybrid machines, whereby we can build parts with two materials, but we can also grade the material.
Yeah.
So we call this functionally graded materials. So for example, we need Inconel, but we don't want the whole part to be Inconel because it doesn't need to be and it's expensive. So let's go stainless steel and just blend into Inconel where we need it.
Yeah.
Probably an obvious question coming up for you. What's the largest part you can print on the machines?
So the biggest machine we have is the LaserTec DED 125. This is 1.25 meters in diameter and 2 tons.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Where do you think the industry's going in terms of critical parts for aircraft, critical parts for medical? There's a lot of sort of hoops to jump through to make sure that these parts can be printed as opposed to...
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of certification needs, qualification of powders, qualification of systems, processors. That does all need doing. There's probably a lot more happening than what people might realise in aerospace and medical. Are the printed parts in the sky? Yes.
Traceability, I suppose, to a certain extent,
yes,
is key.
Yeah.
It sort of leads on to a good question, actually. Is there any compromise to the strength or structure when 3D printing?
No, this is fully dense metal parts. We're always optimising the process parameters for really high density. Obviously, sometimes heat treatment is required, as with any other process. That's very dependent on the application and the material. But no, we don't see that there's an overriding compromise on material structure at all.
I think it's interesting when you talk about the materials. You actually highlighted earlier that it can be better because you know what you're making, don't you? As opposed to having a material that's porous or there's you get halfway down the machining process and you find out that what you've been making has actually been a waste of time. But at least what you're printing, you know the integrity of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Another question here is, what is the largest part that you could deposit on your 3D machine?
So the envelope on the 125 machine is 1.25 meters round table, 800 millimeters high.
Yeah.
So as long as we're within that,
yeah,
we can build either from a base and build everything, or we can start with parts and add on.
And talking generally in the marketplace, is there becoming a lot more interest, inquiries coming to you now, Terry, with additive solutions from DMGMORI?
Absolutely, yeah, and we're always learning ourselves as well about potential applications for the technology and where it could fit. And we're always finding that it's either end product benefits or process benefits.
Yeah, okay, another question. How many lasers do you offer on your printing machine?
So the new LaserTec 30 dual SLM that we released in Fronton in February, this is 2 lasers. So 2 lasers with both lasers have full access to the 300 millimeter square build plate.
Can you do 2 pieces at the same time, or is it just 2 lasers building one part?
You can do 2 pieces at the same time, so you can either have the 2 lasers working independently on separate parts, or the 2 lasers could be working together on a part.
And another question, can you explain the REPLiQ further? Does it extract dust and powders? Good point.
It does extract dust and powders, yeah. So when the build is finished, you have this pack of powder with your parts inside. We have a double door situation on the front of the machine. So we open one door, then we have glove ports, and there's a suction hose inside there where the operator then takes all of the unused powder out of the build chamber. That goes back into the REPLiQ. It's sieved, ready for next time. And then only when you open the full operator door do you then have contact with the part, but all the powder is then gone.
When cleaning is involved, what cleaning is involved to change the metals? What actually happens?
Yeah, so when you do the 2-hour changeover, you're essentially cleaning the build chamber itself, the recoater module, or one quicker way around that is to have a recoater module per material to make that a little bit quicker. and then really the connection interfaces between the replug and the machine will need cleaning as well.
So the replug effectively is a big USP for you guys, is that you don't have to pay for that special room with all the extraction. Effectively, that's the key, isn't it?
That's the key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. What a great topic coming up next.
Well, you better say it, because you're looking forward to this
M1,
one.
the new M1. We're going to have Steve and James on the sofa here talking about this new machine. Looking forward to it. 12 o'clock.
And the other good thing as well is that for any companies that are looking for a 3-axis vertical machining centre, from the live event, there's going to be some prizes for Steve, Finn, in reference to, anyway, we'll talk about that a bit more. Yeah. But thanks very much, Terry. If you need to talk to Terry at any point, he's on hand after the live event. Obviously, additive is a big part of our marketplace. It's moving on in a very fast direction. But to sum up this session, back to Lindsay.
Thank you so much for sending all of your questions in. Look, if we've missed out on any of your questions, still write them in the comments box below and we'll be answering those in due course. Now, do not go anywhere, because the next session is going to be extremely popular. As DMGMORI will say, this machine is going to be a game changer. It's the UK launch of the M1 machine, and we're talking 3 and 4 axes. Now, if you've missed any of the sessions so far, don't worry, they're all available on demand on YouTube and will be shortly available on the MTD CNC website. So we'll see you at 12 o'clock. and welcome to the DMGMORI UK Dynamic Excellence live event. You're joining us for the milling 3 and 4 axis section of our show today, and what a time to watch, because not only are we covering their range with 2 demonstrations, we're also covering the launch of their new M1 machine, which is a cost-effective solution of a 3-axis vertical machining centre at a rather desirable price. So let's see what they've got in store for us.
Well, here it is, the session that Paul's been waiting for, the launch of the M1. But before we talk about the M1 and how it fits into the portfolio at DMGMORI, I'm here with Steve Finn and also Martin Adams. Now, Martin, you head up the milling 3 and 4 axes. Tell us a little bit about the range.
Well, it's extensive, but principally the verticals start from a 600mm through to 1100 with the CMX, and with the DMC we go 600 to 1850 bed length. But the y-axis is larger in those particular machines, so it really depends where you need to fit, so it's application led.
And when you're talking about milling, how does that sort of fit in reference to the percentage of sales here at DMGMORI? Is it a big part of your business?
It could be more, as everything, but because we have so many options available to us. Because when you get to the larger parts, it's not so much that people have larger components that don't need more operations. And a vertical machine, you're stage machining it, or you have larger parts, but then they tend to become more complex. So you then have one of our other machines that then happens to take over the role that's needed for those particular types. So it's really, as I said, very application led.
When you talk about the CMX, and we don't want to go into masses of technical detail, that's not really what this session's about, but there are some things on it that do stand out, like the rigid C-frame. And the one that's of real interest to me is the Y-axis concept, which is fully supported, isn't it?
Yes.
It makes quite a big difference. Well, because of the way the table's configured, you can just get more weight on the table, but with this Y-axis support as well.
Well, when you get up to the 1100, you can put a ton on there, so that's quite a lot of weight. C-frames traditionally, when you get to the most extreme levels, don't tend to be quite as accurate, but having the design of the column means that the whole ram is supported all the way out, so it gives you such a better performance and quality of surface. Tool life is so much more improved.
You'd also think as well the wear on the machine. If a table is moving left to right and it's manoeuvring up, you know, half a ton, 400 kilos, whatever it might be, it can only do that for so long, can't it, before you get some wear, Steve?
Well, like everything mechanical, it wears, but there's good support. It's a very wide structure on the axes from the support both sides, so we don't experience issues of wearing those machines at all.
Not being a cliche, but is the CTX a machine that you would normally sort of sell into a job shop?
CMX has a lot of applications in job shops, and it'll be interesting how we just talk about the M1 in a moment, yes.
Yeah, it comes onto it quite nicely. But before we do, can we talk about this fantastic machine behind me, the NHX 4000? We've got a video that we've produced, but could you talk over this for us, Martin?
Yeah, the NHX is a traditional 4-axis horizontal machine. The components tend to be stage loaded around the fixturing internally. You can see on this particular one we have the 21 pallet system. Many machines aren't just sold as a single twin pallet machine anymore. If you need one, we're happy to provide one for you in that respect. But we tend to go for the larger tool magazines, larger pallet systems, because they tend to be involved in volume production of parts rather than the smaller volumes where you possibly push it towards a vertical machining centre with a 4th axis unit for the volumes that are involved.
It's quite interesting actually, when this machine landed here, Paul walked me through this and I said, what major advantage is there for this machine? He said, well, actually with the applications you could actually have on this type of machine, you could get away with or taking away 3 machines for one.
Exactly, yeah, because you're not having to have the machines just because they've only got a few pallets. With a very small footprint, you can actually have greater numbers of hours of running for a variety of parts because of the larger tool magazines, particularly if you're then in a multiple machine cell. I mean, we've just released the 4,000 tool magazine, additional magazine beyond that of the machine's own magazine capacity.
What I thought's interesting about not just the 4,000 here, there's quite a few models, isn't there, up to the 10,000, is that right?
Yeah, you've got the 4,000, 400 square, 5,000, 500 mil square, the 630, 630 square, the 800 mil square, the 8,000, and the 10,000, the big, well, if you really need it. Again, once you get to that sort of size of part, sometimes the complexity starts to drift over into some of the other models that we have, but they're there, and multiple cells normally.
And with that machine being the size of it, I thought to myself, well, is it going to slow it down? But I was looking, and it's still got up to half a G acceleration on,
yes.
you know, I mean, that's moving some weight about quickly, isn't it? But it just shows you focusing in even on the bigger applications on the speed.
But we are, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to make that part as quickly as possible. But it's not a compromise. The size of the machine isn't sort of, we've just put a bigger table on front. The whole design from the floor pads up, normally just the 3 pads, the machine is built up to give the rigidity for that sort of weight of part, for the speed of movement, all the way through.
Steve, it's quite interesting, sorry to interrupt, but before you start, when you look at this type of machine and you think of where it fits in the marketplace, and you can offer a 36-month warranty on the spindle, I mean, this machine could not stop for months if you got the right jobs on it.
Well, that's the confidence level we've got that comes back from the factory. 36 months on the spindle, and as Martin has said here, this machine, the horizontal machine, goes into much more of a productive environment. So yes, with a multi-pallet system, it's capable of making low volume, high variety, but generally speaking, that spindle's going all the time. High productivity of the spindle. 3 years warranty, unlimited hours, that's the confidence we have in our build.
That's the benefit.
It's a cracking machine, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I can see why the addition of the pallet system is advantageous.
You mentioned about moving around quickly. What we've got is we've got the lead screws are double anchored both sides and stretched. So actually when that gets warm, it's nowhere for it to go. When it gets cold, it's nowhere to contract. So thermally the machine stays very accurate. So again, a machine like this that's running 24/7, that you need it to produce components on Monday morning, the same as Friday afternoon. And that certainly that design that Martin spoke about, coming right from the front all the way up, is really important, and that's what we do. And
also it was designed to have a live visual check of our show. Is that why you build them?
Well, I love this machine. It's a great seller. The horizontal still has a very active place in the market throughout the world, and yeah, we sell them.
It's available. Immediate delivery.
This one is available for immediate delivery. So we picked up an inquiry yesterday because we were sitting in front of it. So thank you very much, that customer, if he goes ahead. So, it's a good product.
Here we go. Now, Steve's very excited about this. I know Paul is. It's a bit of a game changer for DMGMORI, but the M1, let's take a look. Yep. Yeah, what are we seeing here then, Steve?
Well, the M1 is a vertical machining centre, 3 axes. It's got an X of 550, Y 550, Z 510, 24 station magazine that has got a twin arm on it. It's a solid construction. It's cast, it's not fabricated. It's not been made to be made low cost, but we've actually controlled our costs throughout the factory, which we'll talk about in a moment. So if you look at the demonstration that we're doing, this is typical of what a customer would do in a typical job shop. Small handheld components. Maybe the customer would put 2 or 3 vices on there because the table is actually 850 in the X and a bit bigger in the Y, so it's bigger than the travel itself, gives the capacity for overhang. And it's a very powerful machine. As you can see, the milling here in steel is doing a very nice job. It's removing the metal very, very quickly, and it's very solid. It's a shame we're not listening to the sound, because the sound of that is it's just purring. It's very, very nice.
I like the way the table's fixed as well, isn't it? Like we talked about on the CMX, so there's no moving left to right on the table, all the work's done on the...
Yeah.
You're taking the spindle to the part.
Exactly, yeah. So again, it allows you to have that kind of balance of stuff across the table, or unbalanced, and it will support it 100%.
And where are these machines actually made in the group of factories that you have?
Right, interesting comment that, because obviously people will look at that from a cost perspective and say, where's that made? And that's the question. It's made in the FAMOT factory. It's a European build. It's made in the most advanced factory that we have. We've just expanded to accommodate for this product from 20,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet. We've invested as a group over £58 million into this factory. It's a fully digitised factory from end to end, and means we have complete control of the quality. So this particular factory also produces some of the castings for our other factories throughout Europe as well. So European machine, once we've left the factory, it's a couple of days delivery into the UK.
Now, you're entering a very competitive market on the VMCs, and I'm looking around at this wonderful technology that you have in the showroom, and we've been to Fronton and some of the other factories. But why?
Well, if you look at the CMX, it's been a good seller. We just spoke about it a few moments ago in respects of where it's gone into the job shop environment. It's been a good seller, but there's a lot of the customers we cannot reach because of a price point. And this machine has been designed for a price point. So if you look at the UK market, there's over 1,000 vertical machines per year sold of that configuration. We're not really in that market. We're in more of the niche end of the market. So now we're entering into this market. It's big, but it allows customers to actually invest in the DMGMORI brand, and then maybe progress. I mean, the next progression to this machine would naturally be the CMX 50U, which is a 3+2 situation rather than a full 5 axis.
So what you're saying really, Steve, is that maybe some of the customers that may not think, can I afford a DMGMORI, open the door up and then start selling some of the other 156 models that you've got basically.
Gives us an opportunity, but the other interesting thing is the price on this. You know, we've spoke about the price over the last few days, £54,000. What do you get for £54,000? You get a machine, a truly well-built machine and designed from DMGMORI, delivered, installed, trained, boom, everything's there for £54,000. All you need to do is buy your tooling, your actual back ends, tool holders, and your fixturisation. And we can actually assist with that as well.
Well, so. I'm going to speak to James in a moment about finance, but game changer for you?
It's a great machine. You know, it looks like a good offering. One of the other points I pick out is the fact that the table's fixed. It's quite a small footprint as well, isn't it? I mean, we can see it just behind us here. I know 6 metres square, so that's always an advantage to someone, you know, in this sort of market, general subcontract arena that is looking to save space.
We took a lot of, you know, we looked at a lot of sites and actually understood how space was important. You know, a lot of these guys have 3 or 4 machines very much crammed together, you know, working hand to mouth on it. So, you know, this machine doesn't have a small conveyor, but there is an option for it, because actually when we researched, a lot of companies don't use them. They just hoik it out and put it in the bin, and that's how it works in that arena. So
please remember, we've got plenty of questions coming in. These guys are going to hopefully give you the answers, but just moving on to the finance, James. Now, I know I'm not Lindsay, not so visually better to look at, obviously, but finance is absolutely crucial to a lot of companies at the moment, and you can actually offer this machine, the M1, at £54,000 to up to 6 months credit. Okay, so in other words, how much could I actually earn before I pay a penny back to you?
Mark, it's a really good question. As I said earlier, every machine tool purchase, before that happens, there's a financial decision. So what we've done, we've just looked at the subcontract marketplace, 3-axis machining, and picking a very simple hourly rate that I don't think anyone could challenge on a single shift operation. In that 6 months, I think you can generate in excess of £30,000 of income before you make your first instalment.
That is a bit of a game changer, isn't it?
Well, what it means is that a customer, it's got the investment process the right way around. A customer hasn't got outlay for cash. He hasn't got to make monthly payments before he's actually got an invoice out the door. So he's cash positive right from the start. And Steve, you made reference to the fact that there's a tooling requirement, there's maybe some fixturing required. One thing that DMGMORI Finance can do, we'll also add up to 10% of the agreed financing cost of a machine for extras. So we could include some vices, we could include some tooling. So it's a one monthly cost, and the customer knows he can get into production without being cash flow negative, which I think is really important now more than ever.
And if I'm in a situation where I want to go back to my bank, what's the difference between getting a loan from a bank and DMGMORI Finance? Well,
we've got a very, very simple approval process. I can genuinely say that for me, an investment of £54,000 to a small subcontract company is as important, if not more important, than a company investing £200,000, £300,000 on 5-axis or mill-turn. And for that reason, we will treat every single case with the absolute care and attention that we give every other case. There is no difference to this, and the very fact that we're able to do this, we're supporting UK manufacturing.
And when you buy a new machine, when it's a new model, it's no secret, new models come out, the question will be asked, you know, it's not proven yet in the market. What would you say to answer that if someone was...
We've done some very, very extensive testing of this machine against our own product and against product that is already traditionally in the field by our competitors. And the results are very, very positive, as you would expect, otherwise it wouldn't be released. So I'm very comfortable to put the first machine in the field and know that it will work. It's a relatively straightforward, easy design, and it's there to make parts that customers want to get out the door.
And coming to that is that obviously it's the UK preview of the machine, let's say, but there's an offer. If you tell the audience what the offer is.
Well, the interesting thing here is that over the last 24 hours, this has been promoted, this machine, and it's created an enormous amount of interest. So that size of the market is quite big. So yesterday we discussed that the first person to buy this machine from our stock mentions the fact that they've been on this, they've seen it on our live event, will get a free trip to this wonderful digitised factory in Famot. That will be what the prize is. But actually, because of the interest, I've decided this morning to take that to the first 3 machines that are sold, which we have stock availability.
Right. Do you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking if you get the cycle time study correct, you can go to Fronton. Yeah. And then if you buy the M1, you can go to Famot as well. We can just do a bit of globetrotting. Yeah. This has all got to be done under COVID conditions as well, that are strictly controlled, which we will ensure that the maximum safety is there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a bit of a game changer from a DMGMORI point of view, and to get into a very competitive market, you've got to fill some big boots, and you guys have got a big portfolio, you've got the finance.
I'd be interested to know, that 1,000 machines, Steve, how many of that 1,000 you say in the vertical market, how many would you like to see of these go out the door in year 1?
Well, I know what my boss has set me as a target, but we've got to build this up. We've got to give the market, get the market's confidence, make sure they're happy with it and everything else. And of course, what we're doing is we're going into companies that already got good suppliers. So we've got to challenge that. I believe maybe, 18 months' time, we could be sitting with 10% of market share. But I know the
10% of 1,000 is.
Yes, yeah, 60.
Yeah, but the expectations are higher than that, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, with there being an M1, does that then mean there's going to be a T1 around the corner?
Well, I couldn't really say, but that's a pretty good assumption, I would suggest.
Okay, moving on.
Take of that what you will.
We've got some fantastic answers. The first one I'll throw at you, Steve. Does the 828 control include Siemens shop mill?
Right, Siemens shop mill is an option on there. For a small amount of money, but it's a very easy, intuitive system for programming on the machine. And again, we go back to this iPad analogy, so you can pick up apps and that kind of thing. So you can have that as an option. Some people like to program offline, so again, we're offering both options, yeah.
Okay. Can I use my CAM generated programs on this machine?
Yes, you can. Obviously there's going to need to be a post at the other end on the cam system, but yeah, that's no different to any other product.
That's quite a good one. When can I come to Coventry and see the M1?
This afternoon.
Good answer.
We structure the visits into the showroom, again under very close COVID, so we limit the number of people we're coming in. We do a vetting of the people before they come in. We make sure that not only they're safe, but also our staff are safe. But it's available now.
Are you bringing them in regularly? I assume.
We'll be bringing them in regularly. The factories can deliver within a few days from their stock as well.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing, is that when you launch your machine, you've got to have the stock and you've got to have the infrastructure to deliver it as well. Another question, can I use SK40 tools in the spindle?
BT40 is standard, but we can have the option for SK tooling as well.
What about your warranty on that machine? Same
as everything else. Yeah, we cover the warranty. We can extend the warranty with a charge, obviously.
Yeah.
But we've got normal conditions.
Okay.
There's nothing we've scrimped on this, Paul, to actually make it cheap, technically.
So tell us the numbers again. 54,000, is that correct?
54,000. That's completely delivered, insured, and this is an interesting point actually, because if you look at a lot of lower cost equipment, the insurance is actually just connected with the machine itself. So in other words, if the machine is delivered and smashes into a door, that's the customer's responsibility. In our case, we are covered all the way through, fully comprehensive insurance, delivered, installed, trained, ready to go.
Yeah, that's. I just think it's a bit of a game changer because, you know, as I say, when you build this sophisticated machine tools and you've got 157, why go down that path of the VMC market? You know, it's very, very congested. But at the end of the day, sticking a DMGMORI badge in it, it's going to open some doors, isn't it?
It's going to open some doors both for customers and for ourselves, and it gives us more opportunities, not just in that product, but to develop and grow the company. Some companies may not want to develop, they may want to stay just as they're running, and some companies may have aspirations to go, and we can supply all the way through.
Yeah, hand this session back to Lindsay to sum up. James, is there any last messages to engineers in reference to the DMGMORI finance?
I think we've covered it pretty well these last 2 days. DMGMORI Finance is here to support customers, new, existing, throughout the entire range. And with regard to the M1, we're looking at a monthly cost on a £54,000 headline of £830 a month.
Yeah, well, I think that sums it. And anything more from you, Paul?
You can get yourself on the plane to FAMOT if you're one of the first 3 to purchase one, but obviously you need to say that you've watched it and seen it first here on this show.
Actually, I would say that getting your car and come down the M1 would be quite relative to what we're talking about. But sorry?
In an M6?
No, I said the M1. Anyway, more to the point. Thank you very much, Steve and James. I personally, and I think Paul does, you know, this is going to be a bit of a game changer for you guys in a different direction. Very positive message in the marketplace. And over to Lindsay to end the session.
Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for your questions. Look, if you still have more questions burning away, then still put them in the comments box below, because we will be getting back to you in due course. Now, if you've missed any of the previous sessions from today or even yesterday, they are all available on YouTube and also will shortly be available on the MTD CNC channel. What an exciting machine and launch of a machine. Now, there is one more session to go, and that's at 12:45, and we're talking software solutions. So we'll see you there. and welcome to the DMGMORI UK Dynamic Excellence live event, and you're joining us in the software solutions session of our show today. So far in the event we've looked at some incredible machines, but these machines are nothing without the software that drives them. So today DMGMORI are going to show you software options that can enhance productivity across your factory. And don't forget, these sessions are interactive, so get involved, send those questions in throughout the whole of the show, and the professionals will be on hand to answer them. Right, let's hear from John Adams, who is the Product Lifecycle Manager.
Okay, software solutions to a DMGMORI customer would include Messenger, My DMGMORI. It would also include NETservice and maybe WERKBLiQ. Those are 4 products that we can use to help with service and applications to improve efficiencies. So NETservice means that we can link in remotely to your machine. We can link in either in the local office or in Germany. It can be used by the service or it can be used by applications. So both of those teams can then access the machine as if they're in front of it, and they can then look at the control, see what it's doing. We have something called a service camera, which gives a visual aid as well. So we can look at the part program, look at the video streaming, and see what's happening at the same time. This enables diagnosis for faults, and it also allows programming improvements if you want it. We can also offer training through this method as well because it's interactive. In the way of security, which most people are concerned about, this is a system where when the customer requires a link, the customer presses a button and the link is made. Once it's finished, it's closed. So there's no way the machines or the networks can be hacked. And so it's a very secure and safe system, which is a TÜV certificate in Germany, and is tried and tested by major manufacturers in Germany. So what it does in the end is give you increased efficiency by speeding up the support that DMGMORI can give you, whether it be for applications and programming, or whether it's breakdown or service, or you may just need some simple help how to recover a tool change, for instance. That's the good things it can do. So yeah, it will increase your efficiencies by increasing the runtime of your spindle. My DMGMORI offers a product which is a portal into the information that we have on the machine tool and your information. So basically we store information for your invoicing, obviously. We also do your technical data, your job sheets, and also there's an area where you can store your own information. So with this, if you're anywhere, you can, with any device, whether it be Android or Apple, whether it be a tablet, a PC, or now on Celos, you can access this information remotely. The nice thing is it's on for 24/7, so you can access all this information even if you're on holiday or at home working. It doesn't matter, you can access it. So for instance, if the machine breaks down, all you need to do is to log a call, which is a very simple thing to do using the laptop or your whatever device you're using. You put all the details in and it'll be sent straight to the service desk. Then immediately they can pick up and look with it in a normal working day, and then we can fix it. So it increases the time that we get hold of you. It makes more efficiency because we're getting hold of you quicker. Hopefully all the data that we need when we send a ticket, or as you send a ticket, such as your serial number of the machine, maybe some pictures and some details, it may be a program, all of that is with us immediately in the factory so we can speed up the efficiency of your repairs. WERKBLiQ is another software package that is an upgrade to My DMGMORI. So where My DMGMORI stops, WERKBLiQ offers you an interactive system to help you administer your maintenance and your devices that you have. So basically what you can do, you can have it, so set it up on any device again, and on Celos, it comes part of Celos. You can then get a series of questions when you start using it. So such as check your coolant. So it will tell you how to check your coolant. Maybe you want to check the squareness of your spindle and you put the results in. And you can get it to put anything you like really, because it's a blank canvas. You can write any test you want, and really for most industries. The idea being is that if it's out of limits, then it gets registered to a manager. So for instance, if your coolant is out of limits, that's very critical because you don't want people who have bad skin. Straight away, you can send it to the coolant manager and they'll sort it out. Likewise, if the machine's out of squareness, you can send that to the production manager or quality manager. And you can just think of the endless uses that you can put different tests, how places will it start work or not. Some people use it for 5S and Kaizen because they take pictures of what the site is like, and once that is there, when they tick it, they've left it like it, or tick it, they found it. So it's a proactive system to stop you going through all the little checklists and all the check sheets like you may do with the coolant, and automatically tell you when there's something wrong. So we do it for machines, but we also do it for fire extinguishers, ladders, forklift trucks, so you can put it to all your equipment and all your plant. This is an online tool. This is a tool where it actually monitors your machine. This is what it does. It shows when the spindle is running. It shows if it's down, what's the causing the problem. Or for instance, you know, there's some very easy things like if you have a machine with a bar feed on it, and when the bars run out, it will send a message to your phone. And once again, this is another piece of software that you can put on any device, and you can access it while you're away on holiday. So if you're a production manager, you can see what you're doing, how much your production you are when you're on the beach, if you feel that keen. And basically, it is an online tool to see the functionality of your machine, to see if it's working, if it stood still. Even maybe, you know, heaven forbid, that someone turns the feed rates down so it runs slow so you don't make as many parts. It'll even tell you the override rates. So you know the status of your machine and how it's making parts. So the idea of all of this software, you will see, is about data and getting data and managing it. And the idea with this data is just basically to keep your spindle cutting as much as possible. That is what it's about. So all these software gives you information to control and keep your spindles running and cutting.
Well, you join us at the last session, day 2 of the DMGMORI UK Dynamic Excellence live event. I'm here with Paul Jones, Steve Finn, the Managing Director, and John. What a great sum up in reference to software. Now, what I actually want to ask here is that when you look at all these options available, do they come with the machine tool sale, or are they cost added on at the end?
Okay, so NETservice and my DMGMORI, they come with the product and they're for the period of the warranty. WERKBLiQ is an additional item that you need to take on, and Messenger also comes with the machine as part of the warranty period.
And what I picked up from that video is when you know you've got a problem and you need to find out exactly what's wrong is with the machine, because unfortunately they do go wrong sometimes, and sometimes human fault. But you've got a camera which obviously links back to Germany or any of the factories to help you out.
Yes, that's correct. So the camera goes back to the local service department or the local applications department, or then if we want to, we can then, with the customer's permission, we can then send it back to a central source, which may be the factories, for applications or service support.
And in your view, heading up the software solution side at DMGMORI UK, how is it important to customers to have these services in place for technology like behind us?
I think it's very important because it makes the business more efficient. So for instance, we can reduce the downtime on spindles because we can get repairs quicker, we can look at the issues that they are. So for instance, online, we can see if there's an issue, maybe fix it online and then get the machine running quickly. For my DMGMORI, where we can send information and log calls, don't have to wait for long phone calls and make lots of information. It happens immediately and the service team can action straight away.
Question to you actually, Paul. I mean, when you were selling machine tools, I know it's a long time ago. How important was the actual sort of the software and the backup that you had when you were selling certain machines?
Well, what we're seeing here wasn't available in any way, shape or form going back, 15, 20 years ago. When you look at it now, I look at it, and in fact, I know we did this yesterday, but it was actually something what you've said to me is I was going to say to Steve, because I think it was interesting to find out how you arm your salesman now. When they're negotiating a sale or talking about a new machine, do they focus 50% on the hardware and then the other half of the sale comes down to this? Because it must be an important part of the mix, mustn't it? Because in answer to your question, Mark, I didn't have this back 15, 20 years ago, so it must make it
very important. After sales service is everything. We can all supply good machines. The world is full of them now. There's an overcapacity of them, but actually it's how you look after them, how you support the customer to make sure he gets maximum productivity. So to doing that electronically, like John's explained, if someone's linked up with NETservice and it feeds the information from the control straight into our service office here in the UK, we can analyse that with our UK experts, service experts, and that is a free of charge service from a point of view. We're not sending somebody out, and it's often very, very efficient to get them up and running. Sometimes it can be a simple thing like a solenoid's pipped, and you need to just reset the solenoid, and you're off and running.
John, another question to you is that obviously there is a lot of machines in the field in the UK and Ireland that obviously you guys service. Is it something that you could add on some of these features to customers that bought a machine a few years ago, for instance?
Yes, so all these features can be added to certain machines. So if there's an interest for it, contact myself and then we can look at the applicability if it fits and go from there. But
and the WERKBLiQ program, John, that can go across anybody's machine. So you've got a machine shop with a number of different styles of machines outside of our portfolio.
You nicked a question. That was my next question.
Okay, right. Well, it saves you answer the question. We can actually go right across the factory. So they've got a common platform to work all of their machines.
So does that apply with like the Messenger product that we saw on the video? Said it can support 100 machines, for example. Would that be then other brands too, possibly?
Not on the Messenger, is it?
Not at the moment.
Messenger's unique to us.
Yes.
Okay.
It's looking at the performance of our machine, but the WERKBLiQ, so you're looking at it from a maintenance regime and serviceability, that can go across anybody's machine.
So is that a third-party product then, or is it DMGMORI owned?
It's a DMGMORI owned product and team that will implement it for you. We will give a 3-month trial, so then train the customer how to use it, implement it the best way they can. So there's a team in Germany that will support them, and whilst you have the contract, they will support you in upgrading, making it work efficiently for your business.
So you'll offer it for a month?
Yes.
Free of charge?
That's right.
For a trial?
Yeah, free of charge.
So the other thing, so let's say I've taken my new delivery, my M1 this afternoon, Steve.
With take the fam up.
Thanks very much. With that in mind, obviously that's landed. Part of the procedure obviously is to make sure the machine is ready to be signed off.
Yeah.
Part of the training then is some of these applications on the service side then, is it?
Some of the things like the messengers are just simple, intuitive things. You can have it on your mobile phone, on your tablet, on your laptop. We've got some customers that have it on a big screen in their workshop, so that everybody can see the productivity of the machines, where there's issues, where there's not issues. We found that actually quite encouraging for people within the shop to say, I'm going to get my machine the best today. So it was kind of competitive.
What's the vision here though, John, as well? I mean, it would have been 10, 15 years ago, someone would have looked and said, we're going to achieve this is where we want to be. What are you going to be offering in 10 years' time, do you think, in addition to this?
That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, it's moving so fast at the moment. I think we'll certainly be looking at virtual machines to work on. We're looking at, with our My DMGMORI, you can look at spares, and we will be having 3D pictures, so you can virtual pick the part you want remotely and order it. So I think we'll see what happens. Because
in times gone by, your role might have been more to learn the mechanics and how the machine works, and if someone rings you up trying to diagnose the problem, but now you must be spending all your time learning about how these things can help people as opposed to the actual in-depth.
That's right, yes. So a lot of this software now improves efficiency. It allows experts to get involved a lot quickly. And so, yeah, it is more getting technical, and the engineers are getting a lot more technical as well.
And the other thing as well, obviously DMGMORI, they're spending a lot of money in Germany on their plants effectively. Industry 4 is a big buzzword, but to be fair, they really do Industry 4, don't they? And that's where their software concepts come from, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, when you're talking about Industry 4, you're talking about collating data. You can collect all sorts of data, but what do you do with it? So the packages that we offer give you something, you know, to use to make sure the efficiency is there. And as you said earlier, people will not wait. You know, we get stuff on Amazon this afternoon. We expect it to be on our desk the next morning. Yeah. Customers are going to do the same for us, and there's no reason why we can't do it. In fact, we can do it. It's just a case of linking up with the customer, that's all.
Another point I'd like to make as well is that the insurance side of DMGMORI, I know that you have warranties on your spindles, or certain spindles within the range effectively, but collisions do happen, don't they, Steve?
Yeah, they're more frequent than we really wish, and some of this is down to training, some of it's down to lack of skills, and everybody throughout the whole world has got that problem. But what DMGMORI have done with their buying power is that they've spoken to is the largest insurer in the world, and it is our product, we run it. So we've been able to actually buy a very, very high quality policy at a very, very low cost, and we pass that on. There is no margin for us in this. What it's there for, it's there to protect the customer from risk of financial risk under collision. You know, so it completely migrates that. It's, for me, it actually reassures and continues with the relationship, because, you know, there's not arguments about this, that and the other. It's a no quibble thing. If the customer has this insurance, it's a 3-year package that goes from the machine from new, and he can or she can actually ring in and just say, oh, my DMGMORI, I've had an accident, there's been a collision, and we come up on our system that they've got this insurance, and we just send an engineer in. No POs, no paperwork, nothing. We just come in and we fix it, and we deal with all the paperwork.
So talking about the insurance side, when Paul takes the delivery of his new car, and the guy said, you know, I'm going to give some insurance on the wheels, for instance. Yeah. He curbs one the first day, as per normal. Yeah. Okay. Can you add the insurance on to the finance package?
We can, but John will explain that. But actually, what you'll also do is you'll have an excess, won't you? Yes. Maybe 25 quid a wheel or something. Yeah. Yeah. No excess on our one. No excess on our policy at all. None. So John, how do you actually support moving on from the sale?
Yeah, so once the sale is in, I will contact the customer and we can then discuss the policy. We then, obviously, we quote the policy, and we also offer a maintenance package to go alongside. So not only are we protecting the machine from financially the budget side, we're also looking after the quality of the machine. So you maintain the quality for the 3 years as well. And then we will set up. This has to happen within 3 months of the purchase of the machine though.
I can see it. I've been in machine shops, and you can see accidents that happen, and the first thing people think is, they think, how can I not be blamed for this, and put the blame maybe onto the supplier? You know, what can we say so it becomes your responsibility rather than theirs potentially? And this gets rid of all of that, doesn't it?
It gets rid of it. I mean, I sold one of these packages a while back to a customer who in the past has said, well, they're a bit pricey, and it's probably easier for me to run my own policy, so if I have a bump, then I pay for it. This particular customer, I convinced him otherwise in respects of the cost was that low, it really wasn't worth that argument. He put an NTX 3000 in, and within a week he had a huge collision. He had a £36,000 bill, all covered, no problem at all.
So scenario, John, you look at the new business that, you know, I mean, you guys have done unbelievably well with machine tool sales over the last year or so, coming up to obviously March time this year. When you look at the percentage of customers that takes one element, if not all the elements of your software and support, is that a big percentage?
Yeah, I would say every customer takes at least one element and I would say at the moment 50% take 2 elements. Because I mean, one thing about my DMGMORI is that this is a product that when customers see it, they just think it's brilliant. And we've not had one complaint, and everyone wants it. And to the point that we have customers that want to buy it from us for their business.
And my DMGMORI is free.
And
there is no costs.
What, on all the portfolio machines?
Yes.
Any customer of ours got any machine, even going back to the early Gildemeister or the Hitachi days, which we've got under our umbrella, there is a portal available for them.
And I know that if there's any questions that any users of DMGMORI machines or any potential, I know John's on hand to answer any questions after the live events, or possibly Steve if there's other questions. But I know it's been a fantastic couple of days. You know, it's been nice to hear that you've had some inquiries already, and I think one of your salesmen is nipping up the M1 to maybe sell an M1 by the sound of it as well, Steve, which is good. But before we close the show, what's been your highlights?
There's quite a few. I made a list actually. I thought the additive was really interesting, and you can go back across the YouTube channel and see all of the streams that we've done over the last 2 days, because this isn't it. It doesn't end now. All of these streams you can comment on, share, like over the course of the coming weeks, months and years. That's the beauty of this live streaming. But for me, I thought Terry was very interesting on the additive manufacturing, learning about the replug. I thought that was great. CTX, learning about the power and the speed of those turning centres. The NMV, witnessing Robbie's enthusiasm about that machine and how reliable it is, and the flexibility on the pallet changes.
We'll get a case study soon. We'll be visiting one of the customers.
The M1, of course, for £54,000 installed. Can't forget the 2 prizes. The trip to Famot, if you purchase an M1 machine and you say that you've seen it here, the first 3 people to do that will get a trip to Famot when it's COVID secure. And of course the cycle time challenge, which we still encourage you to make guesses on. Anyone or the person that gets nearest the closest cycle time will win a trip to the factory in Fronton.
What machine was that on? Just
that
to tell
was on
the
a
audience?
CTX machine. It's this wheel here that I'm sure you'll have seen throughout the show, or it's on the screen now. This is machined on a CTX mill or turn mill machine. That's another highlight. The finance offerings, I could go on. What I would say is we have had collectively over 3,000 watches over the past 2 days, which is good. You've obviously seen some inquiries, and we've had no complaints from Ofcom, so that's always a bonus.
Oh, great. Well, and we've kept socially distanced.
Socially distanced.
Exactly. But I mean, the other thing we're going to be talking about is from your perspective. Before I do, when would you announce the cycle time? Maybe Monday?
Well, we'll do 7 days. I think we should run it for 7 days, and then in 7 days' time we'll announce the winner. So you've got 7 days to comment on any channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, across the board.
And can I also ask, Steve, I'm going to ask you to sum up your event effectively here, but those 3 customers that take those M1, hopefully in the next few days, could we not offer them some exposure by MTD CNC coming in?
That'd be a great idea, Mark. So yes, I'd like to do that. Between you and I, we actually give that customer a bit of exposure to his manufacturing site, puts him on the map a little bit more. Yep, we'll do that, no problem.
Okay. And from your point of view, it's been a collective group decision to put this on. What's been your experience, and what message do you have for customers and potential customers?
Well, it's really interesting because whilst we're seeing traffic come through our showroom, it's minimal, as you can imagine in current circumstances. We would never have been allowed to have 500 people through this week. So this has been absolutely fantastic, and to see that we've had 3,000 views, and that will continue over the next week as well, I know. It's been really, really encouraging to me that this is the new normal, as we all keep talking about it, and we've done it now. We've actually made it happen. So what I would like to say is a big thank you to you, Mark, to you, Paul, to Lindsay, to the people from your team. The production team have been fantastic. I'd like to thank my staff, because they've been sitting in this chair and that chair, and it's been live for them. And it's not easy for anybody to do that. You know, these are trained engineers, trained sales guys, but they're not trained actors as such to sit on the couch on a Saturday night. So I'm really, really pleased. So thank you to my staff. But more importantly, I want to thank the viewers, the customers that have tuned in listen to us. I hope it's been a good use of your time. I really think that we can move forward with these kind of activities and help you watch us and show all of our wares, a lot of them today and yesterday, from the safety of your own front room.
And from your point of view, Steve, what's the best way to contact DMGMORI UK about any of the things that we've spoken about over the last 2 days, or even the whole portfolio of 157 machines?
Well, we've got a whole team of sales guys out in the field. A lot of customers already know those salespeople. By all means, please contact them. We can go through the DMGMORI UK websites. You can phone me, I don't mind. There are many ways to do that, so send us an email, send us a phone call. If you're on my DMGMORI, send us a message through my DMGMORI and we'll pick it up that way.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, John. James, thanks for the finance. I've learnt quite a lot about the finance. Any last things from
No, it's been
yourself?
fantastic. There'll be plenty more of these coming in the future, and we look forward to doing more here with you guys at DMGMORI.
We will.
Lindsay, thank you very much for your time. Anything to say?
No, happy?
Well, quiet for once.
Look, thank you very much for all the team, the MTD CNC team, to put this together. Also, the DMGMORI guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. They've actually made us feel very, very welcome, and I'm hoping that you've taken a lot away that you didn't know about DMGMORI UK. Thank you very much.
Okay.